Hey everyone, my name is Gothix, and for today's video, I'm going to be talking about language and how definitions will sometimes be altered in order to further a political agenda. So if you didn't know this, politics is always downstream from culture. So this means that if someone has the ability to control language, they can then influence culture, which will then create legislation. So it's very important for us as a society to be vigilant when definitions are altered so we can understand whether or not it makes sense to add to a definition or we're simply being manipulated into essentially handing our freedoms over to big government. All right, so for today's video, I'm going to be talking about three phrases that you have probably grown very used to hearing the last couple of years. And we're going to talk about how these definitions have been changed in order to influence culture, which then creates legislation. So let's start with my favorite, anti-vax. There was a time back in the day that anti-vax meant something very specific. It was usually to define people who were against vaccinations, either for religious, medical reasons, whatever. Maybe they wanted to heal their sick child with twigs and berries. Listen, that's your prerogative. That has nothing to do with me. But because of COVID, Webster's Dictionary, among a few others, have altered the definition of anti-vax to also include people who are against mandates. Let me make this clear. They don't want you to make the distinction between people who refuse vaccinations or people who don't want to be forced against their will to take a vaccination. There is a big difference here. So the question is, why did they change it? To put it simply, they want to condition the public into complying with whatever the government says. But not only that, they want the people who are pro-mandates to target the ones that are against mandates, essentially saying, you don't have a choice. You have to take this thing. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to work. You can't go into this place of business. You can't be among society. You are excommunicated from the rest of us. That's what it says when they want you to put both of those people in one camp. Now that we talked about anti-vax being altered to further that political agenda, we're going to talk about racist or racism, all right? Now, as a black woman, growing up, I've always heard black people can't be racist. And I always thought it was ridiculous, but I never quite understood where this stereotype or this urban legend manifested from. It manifested from people that want to weaponize black people for political gain. Democrats. If a white person says blank to a black person and you say that's racist, simply reverse it and the answer should still be the same. If it's not, you're being intellectually dishonest. So why would the left want to weaponize the word racism or racist and basically use black people as puppets? It's because they want to give shield to bad behavior. So let's think about this for a second. Whenever I have called out a black person, another black person for being racist, they'll usually say, black people can't be racist because they lack the institutional power to do so. And then they'll point to a definition and say, hey, see right here. It says in the dictionary that I need the institutional power to do so and I can't be racist. So then they say, I'm being prejudiced. Yeah. As if that's any better. And what that is doing is it's giving shield to bad behavior. The next phrase I want to bring up is Black Lives Matter. Now, this actually works in conjunction with racism being altered. And Black Lives Matter was named that way for a very specific reason. And the reason is that the name compels you to sign on board with the movement. Why wouldn't you want to support Black Lives Matter? It's in the name. Do you not care about black people? Do you think Black lives don't matter? That's exactly what they wanted to do, which is why they named it in this way. So if anyone had any opposition to it, they can then say, oh, you must be a racist. You must be a white supremacist. You must be an oppressor. And also, if, by the way, side note, if you remember during 2020 with the George Floyd situation, what was the media calling it? Mostly peaceful protests. I don't know what's peaceful about burning, looting, murdering, intimidation. I could go on. Explain to me, in what fantasy land is that a mostly peaceful protest? Are you high? It was named in that way so it can deflect from what it's actually seeking to do. Exacerbate racial tensions, create sort of friction between people who were pro-BLM and people who weren't. And there is a lot of good reason for people to not be for that movement. Just look at what happened. And by the way, if you're someone that still supports BLM, just the sentiment, you are the ideal person that these people wanted to influence when they named it that way. Because you'll still say, oh, I support the sentiment, but then you'll go out and you'll march in the streets for it. And then you'll also help raise millions and millions of dollars for the founders to then buy multiple mansions. I fail to see what BLM has actually done for the betterment of Black people. I'm waiting. I'll wait. Anytime now. Nothing positive came from it. Supporting the sentiment or supporting the organization, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. So this is where I tell people, pay attention to what they say, but watch what they do. Sure, Black Lives Matter, duh, but look at what they do. What is manifesting from this movement? What actually happened? A lot of bad things. Remember when Obama got in office? I remember because I was one of those brainwashed individuals that just got their marching orders to must get the first Black president in office. Right? I had no idea what his policies were. I just wanted to help elect the guy. So I voted for him. No idea what his values were. But I remember what the conversation was when people had an issue with Obama getting into office. Racist, white supremacist, you're a bigot. Same thing with BLM. Oh, you don't support BLM? Racist, white supremacist, bigot. Okay? This is why I am so against people looking at everything through the lens of identity, skin color, sexuality, gender. What you're doing is you're building a barrier around the individual so then I can say, you can't criticize me because Black Lives Matter. I mean, honestly, it's genius. It's absolutely genius. But that is why these people want to control the language. And so what I recommend everyone do is to be more vigilant and start using their intellect to actually discern what is true and what is false, what is right and what is wrong. Pay attention to what they say, but watch what they do. You can usually tell if someone's bullshitting simply by observing their behavior. If there isn't a reason for you to bring identity into a conversation and you're just projecting because you think everything is about race, you are enabling this shield and you could potentially be electing people that are going to push through legislation that ultimately will hurt you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And if you have a suggestion for another video, let me know in the comments. My name is Gothix, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Thanks for watching. If you want to keep my grift going, consider picking up some official merch by visiting nosisnos.com/Gothix or joining my locals community at gothix.locals.com for more content. As always, you can help amplify my message by giving this video a thumbs up and by sharing it online with your friends. Until next time.